That is a druid, right? No, there was a sprint, so that's rogue. It's like every time I see piloted shredder, I'm like, yes, that's druid.
All right,
Rogue
well,
versus warrior.
yes, the rogue versus warrior will be pretty tough. Not sure if Forsen will be able to pressure warrior enough if they have weapons already or so early on. The fact that you'll be gaining armor, the fact that you have so many 2-for-1 trades against rogue makes it really difficult. They have to sprint in order to really get some big combos off. So maybe you can do this, but I'm still liking Hype's hand here just on early glance. Anything can change though. Pilot shredders can do really amazing stuff. Azure Drakes are huge to try and keep up the board momentum.
The real question is, how do you like his mustache? Because we do have mustache boys.
Do I like Forsen's mustache or Hype's mustache?
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, I think Hype takes a lot better care of his facial hair. You can just tell by the way he shaves. And I think Forsen doesn't shave. So I guess if you want to go for that all natural look, you go with Forsen. If you want to go with, yeah,
That's a fair explanation.
Yep.
I won't be picking any, but I do agree with you. All right, so here in this matchup, as you said, Rogue is disadvantaged. A warrior will be able to armor up. There's a lot of weapons for Hype and a lot of ways to stop the damage. Originally, warrior was just able to gain enough health so that Rogue was running out of cards and out of damage. But the key to the matchup is Forsen is a rogue playing minions and being able to deal as much damage with minions as possible, and then just finish the game with one burst. His hand was, I'd say, all right. He had that pilot shredder. He was able to deal a bit of damage, and right now he has that board and weapon. But will it be enough to go through Hype? Might not be enough looking at Slash Butcher and a Shield Maiden.
Yeah. The Drake poses to be quite the problem. Because you don't want it to have spell power so that way cards like Eviscerate get a lot of value. Not that he has much of a choice, though, because there is a Thanos in hand. And this is one of the benefits of working so closely with other players and being good with Rogue, because I think Hyped is well versed with like the things and the nuances of what Rogue can do. And consequently, Forsen's an excellent Rogue player too. So these guys will definitely be calculating all types of damage that they can be pulling off.
Cool. Oh yes, certainly. But for now, it looks good for Forsen, with those minions easily clearing the Shield Maiden and having Dr. Boom as a follow-up on turn 7.
Yeah, that Dr. Boom is so big, actually, because, again, with Death Spite and whatever you could set up afterwards, it's still, like, not the biggest deal if you just take a little bit of damage. As long as you're making sure to stabilize, keep gaining life, and make it difficult, because Rogue has a finite amount of damage in the deck. But that Dr. Boom is really big, because not every Rogue runs it. And in this case, Hype doesn't actually have a way to kill it that easily other than the big game hunter. And even then, he still might be taking big damage from the boombots.
Well, he can still attack face with the weapon. So I think with big game hunter is great. But then big game hunter clocks his mana curve a bit because he will only have 4 mana left.
Right.
So he will have to armor up and maybe play the Unstable Ghoul. I don't really.
Yeah, Unstable Ghoul. Yeah. Because then he just gets destroyed by like Fan of Knives and stuff. So.
Yeah. Like even Unstable Ghoul can be more useful later if you know that the rogue has to use the weapon to attack into you. Like we've seen those situations where both rogue and warrior were out of cards, and the rogue was trying to sneak in a bit of weapon damage, like attacking for 1, to top deck something for the kill. So then if end game you play Unstable Ghoul, you can actually survive long enough to get something yourself and not die to burst.
Yeah, that's a good point. Grommash to come out and pressure. You have so many bombs that I don't think Grommash finishes the normal way that you expect to win this game anyway. So I can get behind that. What do you think about Grommash coming out compared to some other stuff?
I like it because right now Hyped is just calmly taking a different route to win the game. Instead of just finishing Rogue with damage, he's just going for the stable way of not dying. He has all the health in the world. Like he has Sludge Belcher, he has Shield Maiden, he has that shield block. So just using Grommash here to soak down, like this Grommash has to be killed. So this is basically tanking damage for Hyped, and Hype has all the follow up with a lot of damage. So if he gets enough health with the armor, Forsen will just not be able to win, and then that's the win for Hype. I love it. I love this play.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, this is still pretty awkward. Like part of the reason why it's really clever too is because he plays around the tempo you can gain from sap. Normally, Sylvanas is what you want to do to impact the board, but this is really effective as well. Now the trick is, can Forsen leverage the sap enough to buy time, so that way he can do enough damage?
Well, Forsen has two of the biggest cards, which is Blade Flurry and Tinker's Sharp Sword Oil.
Right.
And that's a lot of damage in just two cards. If he will be able to combo the oil and get +3 attack on a minion that can actually attack, because Violet Teacher creates those tokens, and he can get unlucky there, he might just win the game in one sweep.
We'll see. We'll see. He's got oil and the Blade Flurry. Whoa.
Double oil. Whoa. Is double oil enough?
That Unstable Ghoul is rather annoying.
Well, Unstable Ghoul is not doing that much. If you double oil, you get +6 attack on a weapon. And do you even need to do it? If you attack into Sludge Belcher for 1, then you oil and attack Sludge Belcher for 4 with a weapon, you do Flurry. You can actually still play a second oil and Flurry for 7 and attack for 8. That's 15. That's 1 damage of lethal. Interesting. If you don't, I think you can win with Eviscerate. I think this is lethal.
Oh.
So you oil first.
Oh, right. You can just squeeze. You can attack and then Flurry and then use the Eviscerate. But then what about the... Oh. Yeah, I think it also depended on if the oil landed correctly, right?
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that was like in the interesting dynamic is if Forsen had any of the other minions, the Violet Teacher and the Lotheb, hit the oil. Although I'm curious, because you're saying that he had lethal.
No. I think I messed up with without second oil he deals 3 less damage. So gotcha. He was one off. There were so many cards to get played.
So many legendaries. Oh, is it time to just try to trust in this cool Taskmaster? Might be.
Well, if you can't really easily win, you might just go for a 33%. You know you're at 6. That's not much.
That's true. Shield Maiden gains him 5 more life, so he's at 11. His opponent has 8.
Then he's dead to Deadly Poison. So
Deadly Poison, SI7 Agent, Eviscerate.
Second Deadly Poison, second SI7.
Well, yeah. There's just so many.
That's a couple of cards that we haven't seen and they're out. But still, Hyped is just trying to survive right now.
Well, he's dead.
He is dead.
The Eviscerate was lethal, even if he played Shield Maiden. And if I'm Forsen, I guess I just mess around, do whatever I want. Play Sprint, SI7 Agent the face, and then kill. It doesn't really matter. There's any kind of combination here. It really ends the game here. And Forsen will take this first game over Hyped.
And it's very important because that was a bad matchup for Forsen, and he was able to get it. And also, Warrior is alive, which means that Forsen still has Druid to counter the Warrior. So,
and more importantly, like if you all those like 3 health, 4 health minions that get built onto the board with Shredders, Drakes, Farseers, and SI7 agents, if you're falling behind on board and you don't have Wild Growth, you're going to be in a big trouble. So I'm already liking the fact that Hyped has like a decent amount of things to do early on, and then looking at Forsen's hand, he really doesn't have anything.
Well, the thing is that Forsen has a really bad start, and Shapeshift on 3 is not something you want to see, but then the Spider to Shooter was important, and he does have the curve
Yeah,
after that.
that was a big
And
draw.
from my experience, I would also favor the Rogue, but only if a Rogue player is exceptional. On ladder, I'm queuing with that matchup, and I'm winning a lot of Druid versus Rogue because players don't exactly know how to play it. And the same way goes the other way. Like if you play Rogue versus Druid, because Druid has to go for face, more or less. Like you trade only if you must. You want to get them to 14. Mostly Rogues, they don't have Slash Belchers. They don't run taunts. So if you're able to get them to... like even Farseer is a new addition. Like people didn't... Oh, I guess people always play Farseer. But some early builds at some point didn't have Farseer. They were more aggro-oriented. So you were able to get them to 14 and then win on turn 9.
Yeah, it's true. Drew is capable of beating anything, especially when it gets to a really fast start. I've taken his time thinking about whether I should attack into this Pilot Shredder. And there is debate on both sides. If you leave it, it trades into the Drake easily. But if you trade into it,
you're losing damage.
Right, you're losing damage. He might be able to kill it anyways.
Yeah.
And you might be posturing yourself where if like he has Wrath or something else, you might actually fall too far behind with Shaded Nectaramus.
We can already see Hype having an interesting situation where he can sap the Druid. Like, do you really sap Druid of the Claw here, or do you kill it with Deadly Poison? If you weapon up Deadly Poison, you can trade into it, but then you're losing tempo.
What about the Azure Drake and Backstab? To try and kill off that.
I like it. I like it. Because then, well, what you can do overall is like you have double Deadly Poison and you have Flurry, so you can deal 10 points of damage, like out of nowhere almost, for a small amount of mana. So you should be able to get the game in this. You should be able to put yourself in a situation where you just finish the game with 10 points of damage. So the Backstab Azure Drake is nice because you do keep the burst thing in your hand, and then you develop a 4/4, and you deal with a minion here.
So he chooses to go for the Blade Flurry, so he really wants to protect this Farseer and leverage it. I guess what he's trying to do is count down his damage. And Farseer trading is more board control and it's less damage. Pilot Shredder, it's pretty good.
Yeah, because you still want to sap Sylvanas.
Do you have to sap Sylvanas though? Because right now you can kill Sylvanas and then drop something else, and then still save sap for when you want to go for a big play.
Well, if you do sap Sylvanas, it's buying you a whole turn, and it's like, is your opponent just going to replace Sylvanas on 7? If he does, you win. And if he doesn't, you have like, you don't have to worry about Sylvanas for some time. So sapping Sylvanas here, you deal 3 damage, you get them to 19, you play for free, so you still have a very nice board, and you do have that Deadly Poison for next turn and Backstab. So it's like a tempo-oriented play.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind it. This Farseer is doing so much damage. It's been up for about 3 turns now. Gonna be doing 6 damage, maybe even more. It's not a clear just win, but I like it based off of what Hype has in his hand as well. He's got sprint to reload, so if he needs to go digging for another answer, he can.
The problem that Hype is facing right now is he doesn't have much burst. Violet Teacher is blank, kind of. He wanted Eviscerate or maybe Oil as well. That would be a huge card to get. With Oil, it might have been lethal. Like, he has 7, so Forsen is potentially at 12, with Oil being 6. Well, not lethal yet, but getting close. How much afraid Hype is of dying here against Dr. Boom?
I'm not exactly sure. I like playing Violet Teacher, though, just to decrease the chances of Boombot shenanigans. So he's going to use Phantom Knives to clear.
All right.
Goblin Auto Barber. Not bad. Just because it's like one of those things where it's pretty good for the mana cost, but in the weird scenario where you ever get it back in your hands, like that's pretty good for Rogue. Fits perfectly. Let's see, he's got Swipe and Keeper to start controlling states of the board, but it's still not exactly clean.
Yeah, Forsen is defending himself. He's 1 mana off Azure Drake Swipe.
Yeah, Azure Drake Swipe would have been really clutch. Instead, he's gonna have to clean up with Wrath and Hero Power, I think.
What about Swipe Wrath?
I guess you'd rather Wrath first, right? Unless you're gonna Wrath for 3.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
small sequencing thing.
I don't think it truly matters, other than if he picked up Innervate instead. But it's still such an unlikelihood scenario, so yeah. Forsen passes it back to Hype, but he's gotten so much damage with this Farseer, and another minion can be easily placed for tempo. Azure Drake into anything really. Second sprint, a little bit overkill.
I think you can even Deadly Poison and go for face here. In case of Harrison Jones, you want to go for face. Some druids, they do still play it. And that's 8. It seems like Forsen is almost done.
Yep.
There is the
He's gonna,
Eviscerate.
yeah, this is his best chance to try and survive. But as long as he picks up any form, okay, that's lethal. As long as he picks up any form of like minions that he can or damage they can get through this this taunt, he's got lethal. All he has to do is backstab the bear, and then eviscerate the face, trade the Drake in, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. All right, well, game number 2 goes over to Hyped, and the series is evened out, much closer than we had in the previous one where Gar swept RDU. And well, it looks like we're going to have another opportunity here to see if Forsen can take the lead as Hyped wins with Rogue. So
Druid
that's
versus
not
Warrior.
the matchup he wanted.
Oh,
Or if you're
that's
Forsen... Wait, what?
very good matchup for Forsen. Then Forsen loses Warrior, and Forsen loses Druid, and he wants Druid versus Mage. So he forfeits.
He wants Druid versus Mage and Mage versus Mage. He doesn't want the opportunity. Oh, okay. So you know what this is? He's saying that if he beats Druid versus Warrior, then his Freeze Mage would have to go up against the Warrior. So right now he's losing, so that way Hyped has to get rid of Warrior.
Whoa.
And he can't line Warrior up against Freeze Mage.
Have this happened before in any tournament, the Conquest tournament? This is actually so sick. Just giving the win to position yourself better.
I guess it's pretty.
To forfeit versus Warrior, correct. It's a Mech Mage.
All right, so Freeze Mage versus Mech Mage, and then Druid versus Mech Mage.
Yes.
I'm going to give the nod to Hyped here. He's got chances to win on both ends. Although, I do like Freeze Mage against these aggressive decks. So I'm feeling that Forsen will win this one, and then we'll go to game 5. Hype will have the edge.
Oh yeah, definitely. I play versus Freeze Mage as well with Mech Mage, and I think that Freeze Mage is basically heavily favored in this matchup because it's like as a Mech Mage you do want to set a board, and Freeze Mage has all the tools in the world to wreck your board, to stop your aggression, and to survive. And when they survive, they get to Alexstrasza turn, and they just finish you off. So it's a really tough matchup for Mech Mage. But then if Hyped wins, well, if Forsen wins with Freeze Mage, then we are going to the last game, which is Druid versus Mech Mage, which is very tricky. And Mech Mage is heavily favored, but I've seen Druid win. It's not like it's 100% win rate for Mech Mage versus Druid.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that forfeit, if it works out the way he wants it to. Because if Yeah, no, I get it. So like, you know, Hype would just have to make sure to. Actually, I can't even figure it out, man. It's definitely really next level. I was like, what if he just loses with his other mage to try to retaliate so he can force it, right?
Well,
Because like
knowing
if you know,
knowing the decks right now, it doesn't make much sense because if you win with your druid versus warrior, then your druid is locked and you only have mage, and you go with your mage versus warrior, which is all right. You can lose if it's a freeze mage. And then you go in the last game, which is mage versus mage, and you have 50-50, right? It's like knowing it's a mech mage, you win. And knowing it's a freeze mage, you have a 50-50 freeze mage. If you do forfeit, then you have to still play with your druid. Like, I think it makes sense if it's a freeze mage. But if Hype is playing mech mage, then Forsen kind of cheated himself a bit. He gave an unnecessary.
yeah. You're right. And I was just trying to wrap my head around the entire thing, but bottom line is Forsen was thinking like a few steps ahead here. Now the problem is this game is actually panned out for one of the worst possible boards. You know, like he doesn't want to use Frost Nova because he doesn't have anything next turn on turn 5 to guarantee his safety. And playing Ice Block here, 5, 8, 10, 16. Oh, man, he's getting challenged to perhaps die. He might. I think I might be in favor of using like Frostbolt instead to stall as opposed to Ice Block.
Like, I'd rather use damage on the board, right? Yeah. So if you Ice Block, you're getting
put the 1.
Yeah, basically Ice Block is getting popped with Frostbolt, right? It's like, oh no, because you can ping. So it's 10, 16 plus Frostbolt is 19 points of damage. Oh, with Iceland you're okay. So then we are starting at 6 plus 5, 11 plus 3.
14, 15. 15, but you know, you.
Well, 15 points of damage on turn 5. But basically, being a freeze mage, you don't want to be with 3 points of health on turn 5 against a deck that has direct removal. So somehow Hyped is actually in a great position here.
Yeah, the icing on the cake is that there's really no AoE past the next 2 turns. Like Forsen is just gonna try to chain freeze. So this is a risk in the sense it's like, you know, if my opponent had a specific way to kill, like pop my Ice Block, I would have been in trouble. But the Gambit paid off, and now I can even put out Mad Scientist. That's really big. Mad Scientist able to be developed is really, really huge. So that way we can get another Ice Barrier or another way to get Ice Block in case he gets popped here. Like say he draws Fireball.
Yeah. Well, from my...
Oh, man. Oh, that was really close.
And that's actually super important as well, because if you can pop the block next turn, whatever happens, and you leave Forsen on 1, and he will have to replay the Ice Block. If he doesn't, you just kill him with a ping. So Forsen right now has, what, 2 turns? Next turn...
Yeah.
3 turns, I think, right? Like next turn he is live, then his Ice Block gets popped, so he has next turn. Yeah, 2 turns. He needs an Ice Block or he needs a heal.
What to do?
Would you want a Frostbolt now? So that way you can just ping him next turn? Or does it matter?
I think that doesn't really matter, because next turn you can just Frostbolt and ping. Like, you might be afraid of Healbot, so if you Frostbolt now, and Forsen plays Healbot, which is sometimes in the... You can actually ping.
It's just that I would Frostbolt now in case I drew Lotheb, and then I could play Lotheb and ping next turn.
Well, what you can also do... I'm thinking about Dr. Boom. Dr. Boom is really interesting in this matchup, because if you face Doomsayer, Dr. Boom is actually winning you the game. Because Doomsayer clears the board and then bombs are killing the mage. It triggers like when Ice Block is deactivated at the beginning of your turn. So Dr. Boom is another way to win this matchup.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Fire Blast goes through the ice barrier. So as long as Hype never pops it, and he's just camps on this board. I mean, I don't really foresee a way for Forsen to win here unless he gets Ice Block and stalls until Alex Strauza comes out here.
Well, he can do a Forsen play, which is kill your own Thalnos to draw into something.
Yeah. Draw into Explosive Sheep, and then basically you need to shut down your opponent's hero power for one turn. Because if he could force an attack into the ice barrier, he would have been in a decent spot. But looks like Forsen's done, so he's going to quit here. And that wraps up the series. Hyped wins 3-1, and Forsen's